nice to see all of you here tonight because this is a very special evening, very special event for us, for our project CheckpointPeace, and I hope you will enjoy what you see tonight. And you will enjoy how we satirically and ironically process the serious topics. I'm Diana Berg. I'm the founder of Platform 2 from Mariupol, Ukraine. Thank you. Currently, I stay in Kiev. Actually, I ended up in Mariupol back in 2014 when I had to flee from persecution of pro-Russians from my hometown, Donetsk, where I was organizing the pro-Ukrainian rallies. And I moved to Mariupol from Donetsk. This was the time when I lost my home for the first time. 7 years ago, with my friends and other relocated people and locals, Mariupoliers, we've opened the space, Art Platform 2. So that you know, Mariupol is I still say is, but not was, okay, an industrial city right on the Azov Sea with a lot of industrial atmosphere, and it was just 10 kilometers away from the war front line, the war that started in 2014. Our mission was promoting human rights and freedoms with culture, arts, political activism, and also we were doing projects for underprivileged teenagers, involving them into creative practices. That was what we were doing for 6 years. We also were the only organization that made vivid actions and rallies and performances, street performances for human rights, for feminism, for the rights of LGBTQ, and you can imagine how it was challenging to do in Mariupol. We had a space, we had a community, we had everything. But last year, we lost all of this. We lost the space, our arts inside, we lost our homes, we lost our city. You probably know the story of Mariupol. Luckily, our team has survived, and although we are scattered around, we go on working for victory. Last year was crazy. We were fundraising for Mariupol survivors and evacuating people from and pets from occupied territory. We were doing all the stuff to help, but also we went on working with our community of Mariupol teenagers and spreading the word about Ukraine in Europe and in all over the world with what we could, did what we could. Although we had implemented international projects before, this one, the current one, is special, CheckpointPeace, because we met our soulmate NGO, Vicha. And this is a tandem of two Mariupol, Platform 2 from Mariupol and Vicha from Berlin. We have the same values and the same vision and the same topics that interest us, like memory, human rights and freedoms, like culture, arts, and political activism, of course, as well. And CheckpointPeace, we will tell you more about the project. We will tell you like all the evening about this project. But for now, I just want to thank you so much for the Vicha, because it was you who made this happen. You were in Berlin while we were all over, and you are the partner we could only dream about. So let me introduce Vicha, Katerina Demirza from Vicha.
I'm not the only one from Vice, but thank you for applause. Yeah, and Mariupol 2, Platform 2 is also our dream partner. It was a great project together, and I think there will be more. And we, from the whole team, are really thankful for such a cooperation when you just speak of ideas and then they come to reality. And the whole reality we created you will see in the presentation. So I will just say a few words about Vice. Vice is the activists empowering Ukraine in Berlin. And we work in several directions, such as, and you will see also in our project how we combine those directions in different actions and products. And we work with decolonization, anti-imperialism, also do cultural diplomacy, and all these things you will see in this project and in our future projects too. And we're also really glad this project made it possible to combine art and scientific research, which was really fruitful for the whole our ideas. And I would like you to listen this evening and then check our website to learn more about it and maybe create some new ideas and share with us, and we will do it further. And for this round of introductions, I would like to invite our partner, sponsor, without whom this would not be possible. It's a Prague Civil Society Center and the representative Alina Chupko, Program Officer for Ukraine.
Thank you very much. I will be brief. I'm very glad that we, as Prague Civil Society Center, that we were able to support this project and wonderful partners, Vice and Platform 2. Since the beginning of the full-scale war, we've been supporting independent media and civil society organizations in Ukraine, and we've been supporting the stream of strengthening Ukraine's voice in Europe, in the world. So we believe that culture has a very important role, and that through culture we can rethink our past and build together our common future. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about the results of the project.
We are very happy to have today the representative, the diplomat from Ukrainian embassy, and would like to invite Vadim Nagachuk. Take the stage.
I mean, it is my pleasure and my happiness to be here and that you have me. I think that it's very, very symbolical that exactly Vice, perhaps the youngest Ukrainian community in Germany after Plast, kind of Ukrainian Scouts teenagers, deals with the topic of memory, with the topic of historical responsibility. It's very inspiring, and they do it great. They do it artsy. They do it interesting. They do it that they gather this whole that they gather people in this not very small hall, and I probably stop here because you need to hear more introductory speeches. I wish you all the best evening.
And now we are welcoming here the head of Pilecki-Institute, our, I don't know, mother institution who took us 24th of February last year. And very welcoming, Hanna Radziejowska.
Good evening. I feel really honored, we Pilecki-Institute, that we can be today part of this really great, amazing project. Pilecki-Institute, our institution, yes, we met at the second day of the full-scale invasion, and I think it's something also very symbolical that here in our cultural scholar institution, this Polish-Ukrainian friendship could also blossom, and we work together, and it's for us always honor and really huge. I mean, you know, it's our hearts are for Ukraine. Also, thank you very much.
And now let's start with the presentation.
We will have 2 parts of our event. Then we will have small pause for the longest part, small pause of 10 minutes, and then we continue on 20 minutes maximum. So let's start.
Yeah. As we are named CheckpointPeace, we will have several checkpoints, but at the beginning we want to start with a general introduction of our project. And it's an interdisciplinary project that tries to deconstruct the meaning of peace in nowadays Germany and in Europe as general. And we do it through different mediums, such as political actions, such as videos, such as music, such as art projects.
And the base where we decided to start first, almost 1 year, I think, together with Platform 2, that the base of all our multidisciplinary, these checkpoints, should be research. So we will speak about each of these checkpoints more precisely later. But to make this understanding that even if the outcome and even design, as you see, it shows a little bit more in this, let us say, satirical way, yes, with a piece of doubts but the main grassroots and basement for the whole project was absolutely astonishing for essays that you will have a chance, of course, to see and read, and further panel discussion will come.
Yeah, and we will start with the first checkpoint. It's actions. So we did several actions while making our project, which tried to bring more attention to what we're doing in a political activism way. And I will tell you small things about several actions. You will then be able to read more about them on our website and watch some more photos and stuff. So we started our project. We had like 5 actions. It's just like 4 pictures we have, but I will show you one bonus one at the end. And all of them were somehow circling around the peace topic, although not everyone were like directly, straightforwardly talking about the peace. But I will tell you how it was all created and what we tried to tell with those actions. The first one was the performative action, which was done at the same time when there were Ostermarsches in the whole Germany. So, and we were trying to show how we Ukrainians perceive those Ostermarsches and their narratives and their slogans when we are in war with Russia, when Russia aggressively attacks us, when Russia is trying to make a genocide of Ukrainians, and when we then read a website of Ostermarsch and they're like, make peace with Russia, stop giving weapons to Ukraine, and how we see those people who trying to make these peace negotiations without even understanding the context. And so we tried to show how this real peace demo in our eyes is looking like. And so we took this peace doves, which are really widely used in Germany especially. You can walk through Berlin and see everyone with these peace doves, and it's our like iconic animal of our project, which we try to use several times and make it more ironically so that people can understand why it's not really good to say to Ukrainians, like, go to negotiations, set up peace, because for us it's not peace, it's occupation, it's death, and I think you all know about it. And we want just to show you a small piece of our demo. Yeah, so basically that was the idea. I will move to... Thank you. And thank you to Darina who made this video, who is not here, I think. The next was the 8th of May, and because we're not only working with the peace topic, but also with contextual things that are connected to this, and one of them is a memory and the politics of memory in Germany. And if you will read, if you read our essays, which were written by scientists, you will know why it's all connected to the topic of peace. And so with this performative action, with this march, we tried to show that there is no place for Ukrainians in Germany to go there and to have some place to commemorate our victims in the Second World War, because Ukraine is absent on the landscape of German remembrance of the Second World War. And it was our march where we tried to show it while walking from one spot on Berlin map, which is how we call it, Zwangsarbeiter camp, like working camp, forced labor camp, to another spot, which is another forced labor camp. In both of them were Ukrainians, but there is no information about it publicly, and we just like tried to show it, like to make this performative place happen at least for one day. So this was our second action. Then the third action was also intended to bring the topic of peace when the Ukraine will be like freed, when all cities will be freed, because we have in our experience, especially our partners from Mariupol, have in their experience what it's like to live under occupation and what it's like to live in the liberated city. Because Mariupol was occupied in 2014 for several months, and then it was deoccupied by Ukrainian forces using weapons to deoccupy the city. And our partners from Mariupol know how it feels like to live in free city after occupation. And we tried to show it during the march, which they were doing every year since the occupation, since 2014. Each June, they were doing this march until 2022, when Mariupol was occupied and destroyed. And to give more context on this topic, I also want to show you another video which we made. Yeah, please.
When Russian troops captured Donetsk in the spring of 2014, I fled to Mariupol. But they came there too. First, they shielded the city, and then they seized power in it. We lived in occupation and obscurity, unable to resist as a civil society against armed Russian terrorists. In June 2014, after 2 months of occupation, the Ukrainian armed forces pushed the Russian invaders out of the city. Mariupol became free again. The citizens realized the value and meaning of peace and began to cherish it with renewed vigor and dedication. In the years since 2014, Mariupol has become a true cultural center of eastern Ukraine, and the Liberation Day marches have become the main celebration of the local community. In this way, we have been reminding ourselves every year who we are, what peace is, and how important it is to fight for it. But unfortunately, in 2022, Russian troops came back to take our city and turned it into a pitch-black nightmare. For the second time, me and many of my friends and relatives who managed to leave the occupation are going through the experience of losing our hometown, our people, our communities, our daily habits, our basic sense of security, and our vision of the future. That is why we are organizing a march on June 13th. To mark the Liberation Day of Mariupol. This is our statement, our position. Without the liberation of Ukrainian cities, we Ukrainians and the whole world will face the Russian darkness, the darkness of the unknown, injustice and unpunished crimes. Come to Pariser Platz on June 13th at 6 p.m. and stand with us side by side and tell the world, peace is freedom, not occupation. Peace is the return of Ukrainian cities and their people, culture and communities. And in the context of Russia's armed attack on Ukraine, this peace must be protected with weapons. I am Diana Berg, head of Mariupol Platform 2.
one more time, thank you, Diana, for sharing your story, and we could make it really powerful. So, and then we come to Pride, which doesn't sound like peace demonstration, I mean, but we also decided that because it's really huge march happening in Berlin, we can use our voice there too, to say about our needs and what we're struggling for. So we also made a track, and one of the main slogans on the track was "No peace without justice," which is a slogan of our project as all. And yeah, we just marched and tell our slogans, and this was our small action. And the last action we did today, 2 hours ago, and we took the banner with our slogan, and we made also music, like a song, which you will hear at the end of the presentation, and you will see the music clip. And we just tried to bring attention to this topic by playing music, having a big banner which people like see with this doves, peace doves holding it, so people will be interested in coming. And we were just like sharing the informational letters where it's written why we're doing it, what it is about, and how they can read more. So it's basically all about the actions, but no action will be possible without the basic, without the research, which we were based on it while doing our actions. So the next checkpoint of our presentation, it's a research.
Thank you, Katerina, very much. Before we're going to start about research, about our essays and presentation of our website where you can read everything, we are very happy and very lucky to have in this evening Professor Andrij Portnov, who is professor in Light and History of Ukraine at European University Viadrina, and we would really love to have a small introduction words from Professor Andrij. So welcome in on stage. Thank you very much for visiting us today.
Окей. Доброго вечора. Добрий вечір, дорогі колеги. Добрий вечір, дорогі панство. As Katerina rightly said, it's a very spontaneous. I kind of learned it like yesterday or the day before yesterday that I'm supposed to say you something, which is very good actually. I think it should be, especially like our, let's say, responses to what is happening in Germany. They should be spontaneous. They should be like well planned and thought, but also spontaneous. Otherwise, we have no time. Okay, so CheckpointPeace. You know, like I'm asking myself, frankly speaking, like especially actually every week, about the meaning of this word peace, because you know, university where I teach, Viadrina University in Frankfurt Oder. Till now, I mean the city of Frankfurt, it experiences those so-called Peace Mondays demonstrations, every Monday. Actually, our colloquium on Ukrainian studies, it started at 6 p.m. and simultaneously, right outside the university, you have those people, marching with the Russian flags and slogans like "Stop War with Russia." So that's the reality. Let's not be, naive about it or pretend it's not there. That's the reality we live in. And actually, that is why we need to ask ourselves, as the colleagues did in those videos, actually about the nature of the ongoing war, the Russia's war against Ukraine. And dear colleagues, when I'm reading more and more in international media that the aim of, let's say, Western partners supporting Ukraine is to, I'm quoting now, convince Russia to negotiate, I'm really thinking that we are in a serious trouble. And when I say we, I mean not just Ukrainians. I mean we, people who live in the European Union, and we should to remain peaceful. Because if really, oh my God, I don't want to believe it as a historian, if really the aim of the Western allies is to convince Russia to negotiate, then the entire story looks, terrifying, really terrifying. Okay, war and peace, I am afraid, please correct me, dear colleagues, in this debate, I'm very much looking for myself, that nowadays we are not facing just something like a fatigue, Ukraine fatigue, whatever you call it, or the self-reassuring, like we did enough, or we are doing enough. I mean, in Germany, in the US, in France, right? I think it's even more, it's deeper. I think it's deeper. I think that when we are talking about this deficit or the lack of empathy for Ukraine and Ukraine strike, yeah, against Russian aggression, at the same time, I think it's really like what amazes me also every day, especially here in Germany, this kind of unconditional support for so-called good Russians. And I'm asking myself every day, why so? How to explain this unconditionality? So my explanation as a historian would be that think about it, dear colleagues, so that quite often for a lot of Germans, there is kind of this cultural stereotype or belief that what those good Russians are doing now is actually comparable to what good Germans did in the time of the Nazi Germany in the Second World War. In other words, they see Marlene Dietrich in Anna Pugacheva. And I could give you another names. Scholars, film directors, yeah, theatrical, name it, like all of them, yeah? And then, of course, we have those astonishing examples of German ministers who were ready, who are still ready, they're still ready, I'm quoting again, to defend Chekhov from Putin, or to defend Pushkin from Putin, and at the same time to neglect how Russia uses culture as a weapon. That's very important, dear friends, because indeed you may say, I am supporting Ukraine, I'm against the war, I'm against Putin. That's not enough. That's not enough anymore. The real question is that do they acknowledge Ukraine's right for anti-colonial rhetoric? And quite often the answer would be no. And believe me, especially no, in the circles where I'm coming from, universities, so-called intellectuals, academic life. It's much more, let's say, maybe not hopeless, but tragic, if compared to journalism or even politics. And that's my suggestion would be like the best test for so-called good Russians, whether they really acknowledge Ukraine's right for anti-colonial actions. And as we all know, usually they don't. Now, dear colleagues, we are here in the Polish Institute. My friends, yeah, we are all so grateful to them. You know, I'm also asking myself, actually, not just now, like for at least 10 years, maybe more, where is or why there is no someone like Russian Jerzy Giedroyć? We all know what Giedroyć did to Polish intellectual, political, social debate. So there was a guy, an emigre, yeah, who emigrated after the war, who created the journal that actually changed the entire perception of Poland's eastern neighbors. So Ukraine, Belarus, Lithuania, also Russia actually. And it's really astonishing that he managed to do that as a kind of an intellectual project that later on turned into a political reality. And as we all know, Poland became the first country to acknowledge Ukraine's independence and our best ally nowadays. A very interesting question is why. Of course, we could not answer it quickly in this talk. It's a serious question for serious research. But what also amazes me is that the journal where Giedroyć formulated his and his colleagues' program was called Kultura. Think about it seriously. Not politics, not geopolitics, not kind of, name it, not even peace. Yeah? It was called Kultura. And the same journal, among many other projects, was the one that published this very famous Ukrainian language anthology of Ukrainian literature, Ukrainian writers killed by the Soviet Union, done by Yuri Lavrinenko, who was still in the Vidrozhin. It was also Kultura who cooperated with Harvard Ukrainian Research Institute and Canadian Ukrainian scholars. So again, the story of Giedroyć, for me at least, is a story about the importance and the relevance of culture, and how culture turns into peaceful political solutions, afterwards. Because, you know, if you read back the texts about Ukrainian-Polish relations, let's say in the interwar period, they are so full of this, you know, like violence and lack of any belief of a positive solution. It seems like hopeless. And then, recently, in 1980s, 90s, it functions greatly. It functions. So, Gedroch project that seems so kind of, you know, like idealistic, yeah, out of any political reality, it proved to be extremely pragmatic and successful. Again, so coming back to this idea, what, among other factors, laid very much as a core stone in Gedroch's approach, there was the absolute acceptance of Ukraine's cultural and historical agency. That is fundamentally important. If we, in our German discussions about war, peace, and so on, do we really acknowledge Ukraine's cultural and historical agency? That is different from Russia's, of course. If we do that, then why are we afraid to talk about Ukraine's victory? Or are we prepared to seriously imagine Europe if Ukraine lost the war? Let's not avoid such questions. Because, you know, they're discussing every day, what will happen if Russia loses the war? Okay, let's discuss it. But let's discuss also another question. What happens if Ukraine loses the war? What will be next? So, I think that the lesson of Gedroch, and of course, now like ask yourselves, dear colleagues, all of you, why we have no Gedroch in Russia immigration nowadays? Where are they, guys? Where are you? Where is your cultura? Not there. So, this notion very much is linked, of course, to the notion of Ukrainian studies here in Germany. As some of you know, at the moment I am the only one professor, a half position at the German university, who has history of Ukraine in the title of professorship. Otherwise, you have East European studies, de facto Russian studies. Now, when we're talking about Ukrainian studies nowadays, I'm stressing it all the time. Let me stress it here again. It is not about replacing Russian studies with something else. It's about, on the one hand, rethinking, reframing, and reconceptualizing Russian and Soviet history, imperial history. At the same time, it's about establishing Ukraine as a full right agent, again, historical, cultural agent of the process. Let me quote you very briefly a point made by my Ukrainian colleague from Kyiv, Gennady Korolev, who recently wrote, listen carefully to what he said. Ukraine is usually considered a multi-ethnic and multi-religious region, but not a political or cultural entity. I fear, so Gennady fears, that Ukraine will again be treated as a laboratory in which to recast Russian and Eurasian studies in the context of decolonization or whatsoever, rather than part of East Central Europe. End of quote. Again, feel it. Whether Ukraine is just a tool to rethink Russia or something else, or it's a subject of its own, an agent of its own, I think that we should treat these concerns very seriously, and there is no coincidence that this article was published in a Polish journal, not in a German one, in the Polish journal called New Eastern Europe. So in Poland, you see this readiness, bereitschaft, to start discussing the issues, and believe me, in Germany, we are far away from it. But we're still trying our best, which is not always easy, but it's my pleasure to announce that very recently, literally a couple of weeks ago, our university decided to create the center, the Viadrina Center of Polish and Ukrainian Studies. We'll open officially. So we'll open officially on the 30th of November in Frankfurt Oder. Everyone is invited to come and to join, because one of our tasks is also to convince the German academic milieu that Ukrainian studies, it's not just nationalism. It's much, much, much more. And believe me, when opened, our center will do like everything as much as possible to develop and to enlarge our Polish-Ukrainian friendship, cooperation and intellectual exchange. Thank you very, very much. Дуже дякую.
Yes, thank you very much for this very important, essential talk. So my name is Vida Pilecki. I present Platform 2. Sorry if I'll be a bit chaotic because it got me emotional to watch the video Mariupol again about my hometown. But as it was mentioned previously, CheckpointPeace is a multidisciplinary project, and it's one of these essential parts was actually research part. Yeah, we took it seriously, and we actually invited very profound and very special both Ukrainian and German scholars and intellectuals. And we're thankful for joining us during this project because the project was actually quite strict time limits. Yeah, and so we invited those who we don't need a long talk about anti-imperialistic and decolonizing discourse about Ukraine. So to be honest, it was a bit a challenge to find people who are ready to jump in. But the result of works of many months ended up in 4 essays we are mentioning many times today. And we invite you to read these essays on our website that actually also was mentioned many times ago and today, and will be presented today. I recommend you to read these essays as like 4 chapters of one research piece, as it will give you a very deeply understanding of our motivation of this project, CheckpointPeace, its importance, and why we are all doing this. And small announcement that soon all the essays will be available at different formats like PDF and TXT that will be more friendly for reading it with different devices. And now I want to give a word again to Hanna Radziejowska to present our authors who came today to our conference, I may say so, and give you a more precise look and talk about the essays.
Thank you very much. So I would like to invite here Dr. Richard Herzinger and Nikolai Klimeniouk. Unfortunately, Franziska Davis is still on the way to Berlin. Perhaps she will join us later, but we will start our panel discussion. Please come. So I was thinking about how to start. Perhaps I really strongly recommend to read these 4 texts, which are, I would say, this compendium, great compendium on German perspective, not only on this notion peace, but in fact it's like the very deep analysis of this memory approach, problems with history, and it explains a lot these today struggles in Europe about not only Ukraine, but first of all about Russia, what Russia is. And I would like to say perhaps a few words about our amazing guests, and I would like to remind, because it was already mentioned, there are 4 text authors: Nikolai Klimeniouk, Dr. Richard Herzinger, Franziska Davis, and Heike Winkel. So this is this collection of essays. And perhaps shortly a few words about our panelists. Nikolai Klimeniouk was born in Sevastopol, Crimea, and until 2013 was publishing in different opposition Russian magazines, and then he left. He was studying, Nikolai was studying in Berlin, and after 2013 he relocated to Berlin, and now he publishes in FATS and ZZ, and he works also as a political educator. And Rysiek Herzinger is we call him in Pilecki-Institute Rysiek. It's a word, Polish name, a word for his strong position for always strong position what Russia is, and he was writing about what happened always. So I mean, it's very important to stress it. And yes, he works as a publicist in Berlin, was author, editor, political correspondent for Die Zeit, Tagesspiegel, Weltwoche, and for 15 years for Die Welt and Welt am Sonntag. So this short introduction, I would like to start with all of these texts are generally about peace, and I took a very interesting book, reprint, Walter Trier, who was German Jewish illustrator and political satirist, and he had to live in 30s. He had to leave Germany, and in Great Britain he published Nazi German in 22 lessons, and the first lesson is this very beautiful pigeon with bomb, holding the bomb, and the first lesson is peace offer, an invitation to stop fighting and give the aggressor what he wants, backed by a promise that the aggressor will not attack you again until he wants something else. And it's very interesting. I mean, there are 22 lessons. We have here first. And I would say that when I was reading your texts, I had this impression that you think, all of you, that Germany hasn't worked out this first lesson. And I would like, the first question is, do you think so? And what are these main reasons which you would like to mention? What is the problem of this understanding of notion of peace? Nikolai, perhaps you would like first.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have to make some corrections first. I was introduced, or we were all introduced as scholars. Well, I'm not a scholar, I'm a journalist. Andrij Portnov is a scholar. Yeah, I don't want to be an imposter. And secondly, I didn't relocate to Berlin 2013. I relocated to Berlin 1991. So it was Soviet Union then, but I was for some time in Russia indeed. And I've been traveling quite a lot in the lately in the last few months, and it's an interesting experience to go to Ukraine by train. You know, there's the only way to go there now, by train or by car, by bus, and it gives you a very interesting impression of space, because you know, you pass Frankfurt Oder, then you're in Poland and you go for hours and hours and hours, and for 7 hours, and then you reach Gliwice or Gleiwitz, and this is where the border of the German Reich was, of the German Empire. And you have this, you know, a totally different vision of what Germany used to be. And then I was in Lithuania, and in Klaipėda specifically, it is Memel, it is also the former border. And this is the perspective, and it's also quite far away from where Germany ends now, and this is the perspective that Germany is missing. We used to be an empire, we used to be big. We used to have, well, colonies, not colonies, but territories we governed and possessed that were populated but by people who were not Germans and who were either assimilated or suppressed in some ways. And when we are talking about, colonialism now, this is an imported discourse. So we think, oh, colonies, they were we used to have them somewhere in Africa, and it was a bad thing to have them, and we did bad things there. But what happened next door? It's kind of absent, this is my feeling, absent from the German memory. And this is very important if you want to understand why is Germany's attitude towards Ukraine and towards, the countries east of the German border is why it is what it is. And and indeed, well, I don't think Germany learned the lessons as good as it thinks it did.
Richard?
I'm a scholar and a journalist, by the way. Or more precise, I used to be practicing as a scholar and then as a journalist. Anyway, I think the biggest failure that was in Germany's drawing the lessons from the NS past was the slogan "Nie wieder Krieg." This was the essence of the so-called Vergangenheitsbewältigung. Never war again. Never again war. It failed to recognize that only a war could end National Socialist rule or the National Socialist system. So what was really meant when that's the slogan "Nie wieder Krieg" was never again war in Germany. That was the real point. So the whole foreign policy, the whole policy of Western Germany, the Federal Republic of Germany, was aimed at this principle. There should never be war in Germany. So they try to keep out of any confrontation, that would mean trouble for Germany. The Americans had to do this, and had to be, and Germans could criticize them for being so backward, still leading wars and so on. So now, in very short, reunification came, and this seemed to be like the dream come true, and of the German belief that war or military or whatever is a totally backward concept. This meant Germany was reunified without any shot fired, without any drop of blood spilled, and it gained freedom, prosperity, unity, stability. So these were the main values that Germans draw as the essence of what happened in 1989 and 90. For Eastern Europeans, it was freedom. Number one, freedom. Number two, freedom. Number three, freedom. Freedom that they had fought for, like especially the Polish people. In Germany, the idea was Gorby gave us unity. Gorby was a nickname for Gorbachev. And they believed that dialogue, consistent dialogue with the Soviet Union, even in times of the deepest, the hardest times of Cold War. Germany stuck to the principle of dialogue, and dialogue finally convinced the Soviets to be nice. What they left out was that there had to be a nuclear deterrence, that there had to be whatever defeats the Soviet Union had to suffer before they even someone like Gorbachev even could show up, you know. So at this time, 1989-90, there was this concept came up of the end of history. This was the famous book by Fukuyama. For Germany, in a way, this really was reality. You couldn't get better from history, better in history than what Germany gained in 1990. So it was. We were now encircled by friends, as the saying went, and so it was very, very hard for the German public and the German politics to admit that this ideal situation will not be forever. That history goes on, and new dangers like Putin's imperialism appear on the scene, and they wanted to keep their ideal situation at any rate. This, I think, was in short the situation, and it's very telling that one very successful essay wrote by Hans Magnus Enzensberger, the German writer, was called Die Helden des Rückzugs, the heroes of retreat. And Gorbachev was celebrated as the guy who won by retreating, who won peace by retreating. And so when this concept was in the minds, then it was very hard to understand that there could be again enemies showing up who don't wie sagt man, belohnen, who don't award you for retreating.
I think it's very interesting motive, which Nikolai is very much, you write about this, that it's not only about last 30 years, it's not about this 1989, but it's about the problem of being stuck in the history, in past. Even you recall First World War. And I would like, to ask you, because it's perhaps this question about Gorbachev and that he, hero of retreating, is also the part of what you were writing, that the only perspective from which German society can view a war is that of the aggressor, the fighting party, which has the freedom both not to start the war and to end it unilaterally. So it's very interesting. Can you perhaps explain a little bit more this way how you think?
Yeah, it is indeed an interesting fact about Germany that the last time it fought a war of defense or a war of liberation was against Napoleon. So this perspective is absolutely absent from the German public perception of history, and of what the military is actually there for and what the wars are for. This is one aspect. So when Germany is talking about peace, it's a very specific, very German perspective. When the French are talking about peace, they know they fought for it. They fought for it successfully or not, but they kind of they knew this this struggle. The British know this. The Americans actually have an idea. The Germans don't. So this is an interesting thing. You know how peace can be reached. You just don't start a war. That's it. You don't start a war. And when you look at the language, the language which is used to speak about wars in general in Germany, the standard German everyone uses in all situations, it's kind of coined by the First World War in many aspects. When not much happens on the front, the Germans speak about Stellungskrieg. It's a static battle, a war of positions. There are many English expressions. There are different expressions in other languages, but in German there is this one thing. Everybody understands this. We have a movie about this. This is what is it called? Nothing's new on the Western Front. Nothing, whatever. All quiet on the Western Front. All quiet. Exactly. So this is this kind of scentless meat grinder. Nothing happens. We are in our trenches. The enemy is in their trenches, and nobody understands what they fight for. Well, on the other side, they do understand what they fight for. If they stop fighting this senseless war, then the Germans advance and they occupy us. When the Germans stop fighting, they just go back to Germany and everything comes to an end. Nothing there to fight for. Yeah, and this is the perspective of all those peace manifestos. They are full of this language and full of this imagery that originates from the First World War, not even the Second World War. The First World War is the war that shaped the German perspective, and this is the war where the Germany started to lose its imperial shape, and the Second World War was actually an attempt, among other things, an attempt to restore the empire. So these are two poles that determine the German perspective. The lack of understanding of Germany as an empire, as a former empire, and the character of this empire, and the inability to understand the essence of wars of liberation, and the essence of defense, and the essence of what Richard was talking about, fight for freedom and fight for civil liberties. And do I have a minute more? Yeah, and there is also another thing. Russia is actually a very similar kind of empire Germany used to be. This is a territorial empire. They had a common border. Until very recently, there was a common talk in Germany about our neighbor Russia. So this neighbor Russia is a historically kind of correct concept. When the two empires had a common border, and the territories between the mainlands, and we are talking about Germany, they don't really understand what Russia is. They think it's something very similar. In Germany, we have this mainland. We have Germany. Yeah, and we have, other countries. We understand the difference, where the Germany ends and other countries begin. But those countries, they are, we don't take them really seriously. So we can shift the border and nothing really happens. It's okay. Border is an abstract thing. We shifted here, shifted back, and this is the idea which is also very present, very strong in these peace manifestos. Oh, stop fighting! Give it up! You are fighting for abstract things, for borders. It's not about borders, people. It's not about borders. It's not about territories. It's about people, and this is also about totally different systems. So this concept of, borders can move there and back, but not much happens, goes back to the First World War, when the European powers were quite similar in terms of, political systems, and there was not such a great difference between, absolutist Russia and Republican France. So the differences were there, but especially when you ignore, underprivileged groups, minorities, religious minorities, or whatever. But yes, this is the concept. Nothing essential happens to you when the border shifts, and this is what happened in the shifts. This is what happened in Western Ukraine, for example, for many years. So one country, one city like Lviv changed, the nation for many times within several decades, and this is this perspective. The things, it's all right. The city is still there. The people are still there. So why fighting? Give it up.
Rysiek Herzinger, in his text, many times is explaining this German idea that no security in Europe without Russia. But what I found very precious in this text, that you say a lot about also this second pillar of this politics, so this fascination by German authors, German culture of Russia, this fascination and fear. And because we are talking a lot about this politics, about this legacy, political legacy, but perhaps can you say a little bit more about this factor, which probably is also part of this understanding, strange understanding of the notion of peace?
Yes, there's a very deep-going affiliation of German national consciousness to Russia, or more precise, to a projection of Russia. And this projection, since latest the early 19th century, was very present in the building up of German nationalism. It's said, in very roughly, you mentioned it was a mixture of fascination and fear. On the one hand, Russia was seen as a primitive, raw, uncivilized animal, the Russian bear. He was very dangerous. He was very, just irrational and led by emotions. And you should not wake up the Russian bear, because then he goes really gets dangerous. Don't. On the other hand, the same motives were the source of the fascination, because Germany, or Germans, as one historian once, very famous historians called it in a book, Die verspätete Nation. It was a belated nation. German nation building came later than like France or Britain or any other Western countries. So they had to search for distinctions, how they could differ from, especially France, especially Britain, later also America. And the difference that they thought, they were authentic, they were not verdorben, they were not spoiled by materialism, by rationalism and materialism like the Western world. They were deep thinkers, they were deep soul, a deep German soul was their quality, and this they projected also on the Russians. The Russians also were one writer who created the term conservative revolution in the early 20th century, Möller von den Bruck. He called them, they are the young nations. Germany and Russia are the young nations. They have the future before them, and they are. And Thomas Mann, I really regret to say this, but it was Thomas Mann who said, we are related in souls with Russia. So the fear of Russia and the fascination of Russia, of the protection of Russia, deeply sunk into the self-identification of what the German nation is, what Germany is. So this shows up over and over again in this movement, you know, like you had this barbaric, anti-Slavic, racist, eliminatory racism of Hitler, but you also had Goebbels in this earlier period seeing Lenin as a great Vorbild, role model for the Führer, for the German Führer to come, and a part of the German right, the so-called national Bolsheviks, they interpreted the Russian Revolution as going back to the roots, the folkish roots of the real folkish Russian, and Germany should go the same way. And then you had the Hitler-Stalin Pact, you know. So everything, these two aspects, and they are still present to a certain extent until today. It's more than just being corrupted by the Russians. It's more than just being in an imperialist view of yeah, we are the great nation, Russia is a great nation, all the rest are small countries. Like Alice Schwarzer, the greatest idiot of all times, she said in an interview the other day, yes, so many weapons for such a small country like Ukraine. This cannot be, you know, a small country. That's what she was not even able to look up to Google, you know, about this country, and she is regarded as a serious voice in the German discussions. Unbelievable, it's scandalous. And at the same time, she said, "And Russia is such a great country with nuclear weapons. You know, the great country, and the rest is just nothing." I would just add to this. I don't think that there are serious people in Germany who you really could call pacifists, you know, or peace-loving people. I mean, everybody is peace-loving. We have to. Yeah, everybody who's normal, he doesn't want to have war, you know. anywhere in the world. Yeah, yeah. Except those who want war. Okay. But I don't think that there are few like that. One of them is here, Eva Quistorp. Yeah, but a leader in the peace movement in the 80s. But I don't think it is about peace. When they talk about peace, it's not about peace. It's about stability, and it's about not being bothered by anything that is dangerous around them. You should not. If people like Alice Schwarzer talk about peace, don't even start believing this in any way that she is that she cares about peace. That's not the case. She just cares about her privileges and not being bothered by small countries in their position.
On the border of Europe, yes.
I have to disagree. It's really interesting hearing this from Richard, who's probably one of the sharpest and most ruthless critics of, well, many German discourses, and fearless in this. But this is also a projection. There are martial cultures. There are cultures that are defined by their militants, and where you know.
Can I just stop you because you are argue against something I did not say, and I know very well. You don't have to teach me that there are countries they were aggressive. I was just saying. Everybody is everybody wants peace in the sense that it is a common. That is a very common. It was nur eine Redewendung. You don't have to teach me now about basics.
I'm not teaching you about basics, but this is not a common thing to wish peace. There are we have Russia, where it is a common notion to wish war. It's a state of mind. This is a normal. This is a normalcy in this country. They don't want peace. They really don't.
I absolutely agree. You don't have to ask.
But I think if I can make
absolutely clear.
That I'm happy that we clear this misunderstanding.
To bring.
I'm writing this every second day. That Russia is the Russian population is. I just wrote the other day that somebody argued that Prigozhin's remarks that the reasons for the war were not true. You know, that this could change anything in the mood of the Russian people, and it's totally absurd. They don't support the war because of any reasons for this war, but because they just enjoy seeing the great Russia showing the rest of the world how strong they are.
Okay, so, I would bring here...
I just used a Redewendung.
I would bring here reconciliation and peace, because the Polish perspective. Right now I'm reading a very interesting book, Story of Secret State by Jan Karski, and this is his. Jan Karski, yes, it was published in 1944, and he recalls the beginning of the war, September 39, and on 17 September Russia invaded. Yes, and first September Germany, and then Russia. And what Russians were saying, we brought liberation, peace, and what is very funny in what I read now, I mean, it's not funny, but how it sounds, we came to protect Ukrainian nation. So it's like, I think the problem with this notion of peace, when we talk here in Germany, but generally in how this word is used, is the problem probably that for us, peace is the consequence of, should be consequence of victory of Ukraine. It's when there is no peace without justice, without freedom, and so it means that peace is not in this meaning value like freedom, like justice and other values, and the peace will be consequence of treaty, of the agreement, of the victory. We are out of time. I see now we have to come to the end, and perhaps I would like to give the mic to audience. If someone would like to ask or comment, please. It's now. I mean, 1 or 2 questions is possible.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much to Mr. Professor Andrij Portnov. You said there was initially the point after World War II that the Germans there shouldn't be war in Germany after 1945. Maybe you mean there should be no war initiated by the Germans anymore. Is that true? Is that what you mean?
And the second.
First of all, I'm not Andrij Portnov. I'm Richard Herzinger. Yeah, it's okay. It's very honorable to be verwechselt with Andrij. I'm not sure if I quite understood the question. Yes, it was both. The imperative was there should never ever again a war being started from German soil. That was the slogan, the common slogan. Von deutschem Boden darf nie wieder ein Krieg ausgehen. From German soil there should never be initiated a war again. And this is very honorable. I don't want to be misunderstood. I mean, after the Germans had to be re-educated to get to this insight, but there was a subtext in it, and this subtext was we never want to be bothered with war again. We do not want to be involved anymore in armed conflicts anywhere in the world. And yes, values like democracy, like freedom, civil rights, and so on, yes, they're very important, of course, for post-war Germany. But as Nikolai has said, again, the Germans had not struggled for reaching these values. They did not reach them for themselves. They had to be beaten in a war. And had to have a total breakdown of everything that Germany stood for before, a total breakdown before this change came about. And it's understandable to a certain extent that Germans were afraid also to be subject of that they were trying to hide, you know. From the reality of world politics, from the hard reality. But at the same time, one value in West Germany went over all the others, and this is prosperity. And this is social consensus, things like that. security. There's another German historian, Konze. He wrote a very good book, The Yearning for Security. This was the characteristic for the German post-war history. Security, security, security. Security in social things, security in world political issues. And this led to a very difficult situation when the world changed after 1990 and Germany had to take over another dimension of responsibility in world politics, and we are still struggling with this. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I would like to conclude with quotation from Franziska Davis. In her essay, she has written, a self-centered memory culture of the Second World War, romanticization of German Ostpolitik, and an exaggeration of its role in bringing down the Berlin Wall, as well as the tradition of a joint Russian-German imperialism at the expense of the people and nations in East Central Europe. All these factors contributed to the failure of political elites and large parts of German society to recognize the threat Putin's Russia posed and poses to Europe in general and Ukraine in particular. And I really strongly, once again, recommend to read these all 4 essays because they are really amazing. Thank you very much for this very short but deep and this. No, it's peace. It's CheckpointPeace. Richard Herzinger, Nikolai Klimeniouk, thank you very much. Katerina.
And thank you very much, Hanna Radziejowska, for leading this panel discussion. In one moment, we will go for the pausa. We will go for 10 minutes pausa, and we will come back in very short parts, in 20 minutes, and the bridge from the panel discussion, from the more academic approach or journalist approach, or will be the part with the art. And then we're going to jump immediately to the media campaign that would be completely political cabaret. So I'm deeply asking you, after the pause, please come back to this room and let's have fun. This part will be not long, but definitely very fruitful. And you will have, at the very end of our event, the top surprise, how we call it, cherry on top of our project. And my name is Katerina Tarabukina, and I'm also the part of Vice. I'm a cultural manager and curator, mostly of projects in Vice regarding memory and history, and I'm a big fan of academic studies. So mostly all of projects that we're doing in Vice regarding memories, they're based on the essays, as also mentioned, was widely discussing in the panel discussion. And we were making this bridge from one checkpoint to another, so how we can show what's wrong with Germany, yes, from different perspectives, from different medium. And one of the parts, it was art interventions. So basically, it was completely formal practice. So we decided that to work with the deconstruction of understanding of this Russian dialogue, let us say the Ostpolitik, the idea of former two imperial structures that were in friendship, in the political relationship, in cultural relationship as Germany and Russia. We need to get deep in the medium of not only research and how to use research in the medium of art. And we step out for the classical open call for the Ukrainian artists who is basically working with the memory projects, who are in love with archives, yes, and who are ready to spend 1 week with our participants of the art residency. We formulated the whole program for that, and we're very grateful for participants and tutors like Clemens Williger, Heike Winkelha, of course Hanna Radziejowska. We're telling a lot about unpunished crimes, the part of the exhibition Freie Fahrt that you can also see here today. Nikolai Klimeniouk were absolutely brilliantly, I don't know, half of the day we're making these bridges in between 19th century here and now and Ostpolitik and the so it was, I would say, not even residency, it's more the format of residency academy. A lot of texts, a lot of travelings. We were traveling around Soviet memorials. Yes, Treptower Park is, of course, the place where we were all absolutely astonished about, let it say, yes, Stalin quotations, both sides, and the Zikurat monument that absolutely very impossible to work with, even with art interventions. I must say that I was trying to work with this space to deconstruct it in the way of how actually art, okay. Yes. And we selected 4 brilliant young minds. And we spent this week, and at the end of this week, artists had their own time to prepare their own research and dig into particular topics that they pick up. And I will show you a little bit how it was. Part of the, partially, let us say, the art interventions you can see in the space. So most of them, they're presented here, but of course, it's a replica of what it was in particular site-specific place that was working in particular part of the history in Germany. Tatiana Kornieva, I would really love to see you here, and just a few words about your...
Yeah, I want to say thank you to make me involved in this amazing project. Thank you to all, to you, Katerina, to Hanna, to Diana and Prague Civil Society Center, and for many people who helped me with my research, because I started my research when I was working in archive actually for 5 months with former Ostarbeiter cases, which were collected and made by Soviet authorities after the Second World War. And I was thinking, how can I use this information and these materials? And yeah, I work a lot with memory and with trauma. And suddenly I realized that there are some places in Berlin which are not commemorated, and there were Ukrainians. And this place is Kulturbrauerei, and Ukrainian forced workers were working there, and they were involved in weapons manufacture. So it basically was details for aircrafts and radio details, and because Nazis were scared that this kind of factory will be destroyed. It was in this keller of bravery, and Ukrainian women were working there, and they didn't have any options. And the people who were Ostarbeiters and who were working for weapon manufacture, it was a worst case for the Soviet Union, and it was the worst case after the war, actually. And I collected the stories from different women aged from 14 till 21, 22. but mostly like 14, 15, 17, and they all were involved in weapon manufacturing in different parts in Germany. And I came to do the performance, and I created the object before, which also consists of these details, original details of these military radios. And yeah, it was also with the sound, and we decided in this somehow contemporary way to talk about the place of Kulturbrauerei in Berlin, and to commemorate the history of these women and of these people who definitely suffered during the war and after the war. We don't have a monument for Ukrainian forced workers in Berlin, but what if we will have something which remains like for some time, for 1 hour or 45 minutes, as it was with my performance. Yeah, and I hope this topic will be more visible, and I hope that people will want to know a bit more about this. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Tanya. And it also was the part of work that we're constantly doing also together with Wisha, that we don't have as Ukrainians our own space for commemorate the victims. And Ostarbeiter's part is only the part of gray zones in memory topography of Berlin. And it's constantly one of the projects that stress this. And also, what I would like to mention in your absolutely brilliant and performance, that Tanya also made the bridge in between the idea of production weapon and to sell weapon, to product weapon during the war, to wars, and her performance. The name is Just War, Nothing Personal. And Tanya made the bridge with the contemporary story of one of the biggest Germany companies that involved in Nord Stream 2 that was detected in selling Russians the special liquid for missiles, for Caliber and X-100 at X-300 that was found in Dnipro missile, and Wintershall Dea is responsible not only for Nord Stream 2 and also for the still selling Russians for artillery. So nothing personal, just war business. It's still presented even with the connection of memory places in Berlin. Thank you, Tanya, very much. You can see this video of performance in the hallway, and also make a notion of the object, because Tanya made it by herself with very severe finding this absolutely pieces from that time, from Telefunken, from particular that we don't know from that particular production, but from that time. So thank you. Next one, I would like to introduce, Anna Ivchenko is not here today. I don't see her, so I will introduce. It's also the part of the memory about non-existing voices during the Second World War. And Anya picked up another location after our walk during the art residency. She picked up the place that now is a Sophienhalle. It's in Sophienstrasse. This is a very interesting multi-layer historical place because it's very well known as the first workers' unit place in the beginning of 20th century, and there are lots of plates there about unions, about meetups, about the idea of course, German socialism, and a lot of memory from there, yes, and it's still here presented very commonly in websites, even the plates, the memory plates, but completely no information about that it was also former labor camp where, together with a Netherlands woman, they were also Ukrainian women. And Anya Ivchenko, she made the site-specific sound installation where she was reading letters that was found also in archives here in Berlin and also in Ukraine. Some of these letters are, of course, censored. Yes, some of them are completely written in such a way that it's hidden what is going on. Yes, for example, the letter, "Dear Mom, we're doing well, they feed us very well," the same as in 30s. So it makes this connection that they completely cannot say what is going on. And trapped in the air, the idea that this information here, it's very low about these women. Mostly, it's absolutely complicated to find the names, of course. It's just some memories, some testimonies here and there. And the idea of reading and voices itself, like a medium of voices, yes, it's simplifying. And they're fading away. Like, once again, we're talking about fading historical memory. Yes, you would have the opportunity after this part to sit in the corner in this cozy pillows and listen 3-channel multi, not site-specific, sorry, yes, but still sound installation. Third part was made by Jan Baczynski. He was connecting the idea of how to show in the very sufficient way the ideas of distorted peace and anti-imperialism for Berlin target audience that completely you cannot catch for panel discussion, for example, yes? And the idea was to make the sticker campaign in Berlin clubs and bars toilet. So the best way to think about Russian imperialism is, of course, yes, to sit in the specific places. And you can take all of them. We have the sticker packs, please. Take them in the entrance of Pilecki-Institute. There is all combined, different, and like in English and in Deutsch. And of course, I would like to ask you to spread them on different places, but also you can start with follow them because they are absolutely brilliant. They made in such a meme way. Yes, and one of my favorites, "Don't let anti-Americanism blind you to Russian imperialism." And they're very different, some of them referring to the historical events, some of them just memes. Yes, just memes how they are in pop culture. And the last one, the object that you probably saw in the beginning, the entrance of Pilecki-Institute in our event, is pretty much a long-term project of Vitaly Shuplyak, sensitive content. And for this particular project, he decided to make the object itself. And I would say that Vitaly can say much more. Yes? Thank you.
Привет. Yeah, I will shortly tell you about my work and the work based on the reflection on how the images of the war and the crime of the Russian soldiers function in the social media, especially in Instagram. And I think most of you know how look the blurred image of the Instagram or Meta, better to say, stylistic. And what I made, it was just a reinterpretation of that, or using that stylistic and push it to the image that you see. And my goal was to give you, as a viewer, possibility to throw the empathy, to empathize with the victim, but also our first presentation take part in the front of the Russian embassy, that viewers was able to see the reflection of the whole building, which also made in the, or built in Stalinist empire, and decorated quite well with the communistic and totalitarian symbols, which is still a question why it exists here. Yeah, and now you saw that that objects a bit wet but still function. Yeah, that you still can see yourself or take a selfie. And I also want to say thank you a lot to the whole WeChat team, to Mariupol, and all of the people who support, because that idea honestly started from the small sticker, and only with the teamwork and a lot of support it's able to see the whole object.
And also Vitalik, a big fan of combining different realities, yes? So you also have a possibility to have Instagram mask, like sensitive content, but I think that after this part, if you're interested, Vitalik will share. And I would say that it was an honor to be the curator, and it was such a interesting trip together. I want to thank you, artists. First of all, it was very fruitful. It was incredibly interesting to, I don't know who was guiding, probably you were guiding me all of this couple of months, even with a stressful production time. And I congratulate you, and I really see that this works, especially the objects and video that we made. Please watch the video, all of them. They can be shown next and next in more contemporary art dimension and universe of this very contemporary art spaces. Yes, and at the end of this part, of my part, we will see the short video. Please, Marek, the last one, thank you.
During the Second World War, some Ukrainian women during an Ostplan were forced to work for Telefunken, a company involved in weapons manufacturing. These women found themselves trapped in a hopeless situation where the idea of nothing personal, it's just business held sway, a concept that still remains today. My work includes audio and visual part and asks the question why significant events that deeply affected Ukrainian class during and after the Second World War remain largely overlooked and burdened. In my performance, I draw a parallel with the present by highlighting the investigation into Wintershall Dam, the main player in Nord Stream 2.
Looking in a huge mirror in the shape of a smartphone with the inscription "sensitive content", the viewer can see his or her own reflection and empathize with the position of the victim. In addition to their own reflection, the mirror shows the Russian embassy in the center of Berlin, built in Stalinist empire style and decorated with the symbols of communist totalitarian regime.
Trapped in Air is a site-specific audio installation located in front of the House of Craftsmen's Association in Berlin. Now this place is a center for performing arts called Sophiensäle. During the Second World War, it used to be a place of forced labor, where among others, Ukrainian women were exploited as forced workers. There is almost no information about those people. The only thing we know is that they worked for a factory that produced high-precision grinding machines and small armaments. The sound installation is based on both real and fictional letters of Ukrainian Ostarbeiters, which highlights the impossibility of fully recovering the memory about them.
The Peripheral Vision is a sticker campaign in WCs of Berlin bars, nightclubs and public spots. The stickers are memes about Russians' war against Ukraine, its causes, course and consequences. The form of memes was chosen as the most concise tool for transferring the Ukrainian context to Germany.
Thank you very much. Sorry. Okay, so next checkpoint, media campaign. Media campaign. Jutta.
Что нажимать? Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Jutta Korgun. I'm from Platform 2, and I'm happy to present you this checkpoint dedicated to the media campaign. And first component of this checkpoint is social advertising. In this work, we want to show how the situation develops when, under the pretext of peace, they try reconcile the victim and the aggressor during a blind eye to the true motives, those who commit violence. Situation when the victim and acquainted with the one who commits violence, and situation where injustice is ignored without responsibility. By the way, we can talk about this for a long time, but I think it's probably better to watch the video than to talk about video. But before we looked the video, I'd like to introduce Kristina Zinchuk, the director of all video actions, and this woman manage and bring together an incredibly talented team who is working on the video, on the old video. Yeah, thank you.
I'm also 100% agree that it's better like to watch the video than talk about them, like for sure. And the videos will be longer than my speech, of course. And I guess our media campaign is another example of how Ukrainians can be united when it comes up like to the common idea, which is like stuck in our hearts. And that is the idea of no peace without justice, like the idea that united all the crew all together to make this project real. And also like this idea you will see like in every like music video, in the 3 social ads. Yeah, I know that I need to finish already, but I'll go. Yeah, and I'm just happy that we managed to gather such a crew. For example, I was based in Hamburg, most of the crew is based in Berlin, and I'm very happy that most of them also came today to support us. And with some of them, I only talk remotely, and I know that some of them are here. Irina, the one that baked the cake. Ah, okay. Yeah, applause to you as well. And yeah, like even some of them I didn't meet personally. And I guess like this crew is like worth of every clap that you will give them. So like, let's watch it and talk after.
Peace.
Hi again. So we are moving to almost to the end. Can we please have the next slide? The next slide. Yeah, well, this is all of the people who did participate in this beautiful social ads, these small videos, and we want to give credits to all of them, and each of you made your part. And of course, Kristina Zinchuk. That was, we had this open call to the film directors, and Kristina won in the very honest competition. And thank you to Yuta for managing all this. And yeah, so can we move? Yeah. I just wanted to briefly tell about the website and the design that we have developed during this project to contain everything that we have actually implemented. And for this, yeah, thank you. We can go to the main page. Finally, we mentioned the website so many times tonight, and now you can have it. There is like a big QR code, but yeah, it's CheckpointPeace.org, and it contains everything we have made so far, from the research, all of the scholars who made and all of the essays you can find there. And soon it will be also in PDF and all the different formats to easily read. Then we have everything about our actions, about all of the rallies and performances we made with really like detailed information and some videos and photos. And of course, interventions, which is the best part, I guess. If you please, can you go to any of our artists, please, so that we see how beautiful the website is. And at this point, I want to mention and credit the person responsible for this website, who almost entirely made it alone, was Alexei Yegorov. He's a designer from Mariupol, from Platform 2. He's now in Kiev, and I'm so sorry he couldn't be here, but let's just give him... And for every artist, there is a different design and different effects. And also, we can see our team, finally. As for the media campaign section, it will be filled next week, because we only release our media products online next week, whereas you are the only one who have this offline premiere. And when we talk about, please go CheckpointPeace.org and subscribe. You see, I told you. And subscribe to Vice Berlin, to Mariupol in Instagram and Facebook, and please go check the website. And I also wanted to, when we talk about design, I also wanted to mention that we have the whole section of sticker packs that you can take, both from Checkpoint Peace and from Jan Baczynski, one of the artists, totally for free. And also there is a T-shirt that you can take with the same saying, no peace without justice, our slogan for the donation for Ukraine. So you can make it after we finish. So, and then, yeah, you just check this website whenever you can. And now the next, and the cherry on top will be presented by Katerina Tarabukina. The last but not least, the best part, please.
Hello once again, and I would like to ask whether Yura Gorgi is here. Yes! So, basically, the idea of making cherry on top, yes, was absolutely the part of the very beginning, because first of all, we wanted to get the audience that usually are not interested in politics, yes, and to show the absurdism in such a way as is working in Germany. It's not only social commercials, as we saw, but also the way how usually in media is presented with political satire. And we were very lucky with Jura Gurzi walking in the Flohmarkt in Berlin. And Jura found this absolutely incredible cassette. Maybe you can say the small story about that, yes?
Good evening, and it's an honor to be here. I'm a musician, I'm a DJ, and I'm also a record collector. I'm a digger, and we had a very fruitful conversation with the members of Vice about what could possibly be the soundtrack to this project. And we were thinking whether we should write a new song or maybe even create a musical album. But in the end, I remembered about this tape that I found on one of Berlin flea markets. I think it was Arkona Platz. I have a bunch of them, and this one struck me because this song sounded like it really puts all the elements of this puzzle together. It's more than absurd. It takes it to the next level, and I believe it was recorded in the early 2000s, but it sounds like it's been written yesterday or today or tomorrow, unfortunately. And so what we did is just, what we did. I'm just a tiny bit of this huge machine that professionally created a video and took it yet to another level. And we're here to, I think, almost no one in the audience has seen it yet, so this is a big moment for the video of an artist or artists that we actually never met. And if you somehow heard of them or maybe have personal contact to them, maybe you could connect us. Masterpiece and the Beastie Boys are the artists who created this song, and with huge thanks and respect, we give you this video tonight. Thank you.
Bringing the world leaders to their knees. Dancing together.
across the land. Dance to the music, gotta wave your hands. You gotta shake all your body to the sound of this dance, this dance. Whoa, whoa, yeah, this dance. Whoa, whoa, yeah, this dance.
Yes, frankly speaking, of course, we can talk about Zeitenwende and that politic of understanding what is going on in Ukraine is kind a bit starting step by step to be changed. So, of course, the political mock-up or political satire, it's, I think, and we, all of our teams think this is still relevant, even if the pieces of the history are recent, you can see here. And we hope that this dialogue inside of German society, and especially, as Professor Portnov said, in academical part of it, will really reconcile the responsibility of a lot of things that's going on right now in Ukraine. But still, we're grateful for any chances and any small steps that is going on towards Ukraine in German politics. And not to be very bored, yes, I just want to say huge thanks to the whole team of production of both 4 videos. It was huge. It was made in intensively short period, and I would like to thank you all. And also, one person who is not mentioned here is Katarina Reka, who was making all the social media part. It's incredible. Huge amount, so thank you very much. And I would like to just to welcome the whole team and just to make a small photo, and thanks to all of you, and let's get our party started. Thank you.